Friends, there is a lot going on in the world. Today is our 1100th broadcast. It is also day 292 since October 7th. There's a lot in this Torah portion. There's a lot going on in our lives, including Deborah, that your iron infusion went well, sending you healing as you recover. And Peter, thank you for letting us that Rosa sends love. We are sending her love back. And I hope that she'll join again because miss her. Um, we have a lot of Torah that we can discuss, and a lot going on in the world. I'm going to allow Torah to be our guide. Ariel, my love, so good to see you. Sending love to you. And friends, a quick FYI. On Sunday, I'll be leaving with 20 colleagues from UJA for a mission to Israel, a solidarity mission to many of our grantees. I'll be sharing all of that and our journey on my own Facebook page and profile. But broadcasting next week, Monday through Thursday, will probably be a little bit off in terms of timing. So please pay attention to the announcements on our Facebook page. And friends on Instagram, unfortunately, I won't be able to broadcast on Instagram next week. I'll try to find a way, but likely it won't work the same way it has. Okay, Parshat Pinchas. Now, we know the name Pinchas, and some of us are familiar with the story, but what I would like to um, do is just tell just a bit of the story to make sure that we can all understand the impact, literally the impact of what he did. So Pinchas is a descendant of Aaron, the high priest, and when I'll just say it this way, when he sees something improper happening in the community, and it's a drastic moment, he he takes a spear, and it's a man and a woman who are doing this improper thing in public, and he kills them both. And one of the things that is hard for us to deal with is violence in the Torah, especially when it is in the end, or it seems to be, praised. In our Torah portion, one of the hardest things to understand is the language about Pinchas that is used. God says about Pinchas in the text, I'm just going to read it a little bit. God says, this is chapter 25, verse 11 in the book of Numbers, if you'd like to look it up. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen heshiv et chamati me'al b'nei Israel b'kan'o et kinati b'tocham v'lo chinliti et b'nei Israel b'kinati. Here's a translation. Pinchas, son of Elazar, son of Aaron the priest, turned back my wrath from the Israelites by displaying among them his, now this translation says, his passion for me, so that I did not wipe out the Israelite people in my passion. Now, if you thought that the story about Pinchas is complicated, killing two people for doing something, terribly wrong in public, how about a God who, without Pinchas's action, would have wiped all the people out? These are complicated texts, and violence in the name of religion has been an enormous problem. If you're looking for the best treatment of it ever written, the best book, it is by our beloved Rabbi Jonathan Sachs of blessed memory. The book is called Not in God's Name, where he identifies the problematics of perpetrating violence in the name of God. And you and I can think of countless examples. It's not the source of violence, but it certainly adds fuel to the fire. But here, God blesses Pinchas for what Pinchas did. And the word that I translated as passion is kin'ah, vengeance. He was vengeful for me, or zealous for me. Amy, happy birthday. So what I want to share is the very next verse. It's a strange verse, both in what it says and how it's written. The verse says, Lachein emor, therefore, Moses, you should say, Hineni noten lo et briti shalom. Behold, I am granting him my brit, my covenant of shalom, of peace. Pinchas, for acting violently, is given a covenant of peace, a blessing, and his family for the rest of time. But here's where you need to look more deeply. And if you've ever looked into a Torah scroll, you see different things than you can see online or you can see in a book. The word shalom is spelled Shin Lamed Vav Mem. The Vav is a straight line. But whenever a scribe writes a Torah scroll and comes to this verse, the Brit Shalom, the covenant of peace with which Pinchas is blessed, has a Vav that is broken in the middle of it. It must be broken in the middle of it. By tradition, it has to be broken. Now, anywhere else in the Torah that you would look and see a letter that is not whole because it's broken midway down, that would actually invalidate the kashrut of the Torah. The Torah would be in need of repair. But here, the Brit Shalom, the covenant of peace with which God blesses Pinchas after Pinchas commits violence in God's name, that vav has to be broken. So I want to say it again. Anywhere else in the Torah that they would need, that you would see a break in a letter, would need correction, would need fixing. But here, and this is a suggestion that I've made many times, but I think it's even more necessary today. But here, the brokenness is in Pinchas. The brokenness is his. And the only brit, the only covenant that would fit him is a covenant of brokenness. Ultimately, the blessing that Pinchas needs is to be less broken in the way that he engages in the world. And perhaps because this blessing comes from God, we might even say, look at the language that God uses in the text to describe what Pinchas has done. B'kin'o et kinati. When he acted zealously the way I wanted to act zealous in my anger, he shocked me from doing it. When we witness what unrestrained anger looks like in the world, violence in language, violence in action, that should shock us and remind us the dangers of violence and of endorsing it. The danger of Pinchas's actions is made clear even to God. So much so that when God then offers a blessing, God does so perhaps from a place of divine empathy, of pathos, seeing what happens when violence is done. Violence does not end problems. It just doesn't. It maybe overpowers them for a time. And maybe self-defense is a different thing than the violence that Pinchas does, and therefore lives in a different ethical category. But God speaks in such fascinating ways here. B'kino et kinati. When he acted the way I wanted to, I didn't do it. How powerful it is to learn that from the text. And Pinchas carries this broken vav, this incomplete peace, this fractured shalom for the rest of his life. And so do his children. And so do his descendants. And so do the students of the text. For us to remember, friends, for us to remember all of the worth in the Torah and to see the brutal description of brutality, the shock of violence, shocking even God. So much so that the covenant has to be just a little bit broken to make any sense. So let's bless ourselves to be thoughtful in the way that we react, to be mindful of the dangers of violence when it is part of public discourse. The perpetration, the perpetuation, and the acceptability, the normalization of violence should shock us. There's a great quote. Let me see if I can grab it very quickly. And if I can't, I'll try to quote it effectively. Rabbi Abram Joshua Heschel said, I remain shocked by violence in this world. That's what cultivates goodness in me. I do not adjust myself to violence. Now, it's not the same thing, but it's not so different. October 7th, 292 days ago, shocked us, shocked us. And it's not normal. And we will not let anyone consider it normal. It's not. The danger of violent language mirrored the violence of that day. On campuses, in state houses, in American and Israeli politics, we have to learn. We have to learn. And in order to learn, we have to remain shocked. When this happens, we have to remain shocked. Because we don't want more of that broken vav. We don't want an impossible peace. We need one step in front of the other where everyone can just breathe. We're not there yet, but I do bless us that we get there sometime soon by learning the lessons, especially from this week's Parsha. So on this day, 292 days after October 7th, on this our 1100th broadcast, let's double down and believe again in peace somehow. If not immediately, somehow. Because at the moment, all we've got is that broken vav. A peace that is certainly not yet complete. Let's send our hearts east, friends. Here we go. Kol balevav pnima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefate mizrach kadima ayin letzion tzofia od lo avda tikvatenu hatikva bat shnot alpayim להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים. להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים. Bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, friends.